Welcome in, Elish Norn. I like that name. Play Magic the Gathering. Luffy Zorro, welcome in. We're going to get started in just a second. We do have some shipping today, and I'm actually going to do a little bit different than what I normally do. We're going to bring back a podcast I used to do, but it's just going to be solo today. So if you're watching on TikTok, thank you for being here. And it doesn't look like we have anybody on the other streams, but just know I may be going back and forth between looking at cameras because I'm streaming to a couple different platforms at the same time. So just know that's why I may be looking at you at TikTok, or I may be looking at you on Facebook/YouTube. So welcome, guys, if you're just now coming in. Let me explain a little bit. I do have 4 items to ship out today, but we're going to talk about my 3 favorite ways to source today. So this is kind of going to be like a podcast, a live podcast. I used to do a podcast with a friend of mine named Jake. We did it a couple of years ago, and I really wanted to bring it back, and he just didn't want to necessarily commit to the time frame. So I've been trying to debate on how to bring that back, and I just decided I'm going to do it solo, and my goal is to do 1 a month. And I thought the best way to do it was to kick it off and do a live one right here with you guys. So we're going to do our shipping first. And then after we're done with the shipping, we're going to talk about my 3 favorite ways to source. So the first thing that we got going out here today is this Sin City action figure. This came from a purchase that I did last year at a garage sale where I got a ton of really good action figures, a lot of horror themed stuff. And I got a lot of Sin City stuff. So I've already sold a bunch of these. I've still got some that I haven't even listed yet, honestly. But this one, that's my note from yesterday. I don't need that today. This one sold for $16.93. I'm far into the profit on these already. So this is just pure profit. And on all of my listings, the buyers do pay shipping. So we're going to get a little bit of bubble wrap on this. And I'm going to save some money on a box today. So this is an Amazon box that an old coworker gave me. If you can save money and just reuse boxes, you might as well do it. So I do buy all of my 8x6x4 boxes just because I use those more than anything. But anytime that I can reuse supplies and save a little bit of money, that's what I do. Lots of people coming in. Thank you so much, Lisa Marie, for liking that live. I very much appreciate that. Anybody that likes the live, that is a huge help to me, getting more viewers in here. So I very much appreciate that. And if you're not following me, go ahead and give me a follow. I post reels all the time. And like I said, I'm going to start doing these podcasts as well. So let me know, how's it looking in the TikTok? I have been fighting some internet issues the last couple weeks. It seemed to be much better yesterday when I went live. I do have 1 viewer on either YouTube or Facebook. I'm not sure where you're at. But if you could just let me know in the comments, how's this stream looking? I know on Facebook and YouTube, it was slightly blurry. I'm going to work on getting a better camera for that setup. But let me know as long as it's coming in smooth. That's what I'm hoping for. Lots of likes for that live. Thank you so much. Thanks, Lisa. Okay, so like I said, the first thing we sold was this Sin City figure. We're going to get some bubble wrap on that. And like all of my videos, I have my bubble wrap hanging up behind me. I get all my bubble wrap from American Bubble Boy. And I do have some exciting news coming in the next week or 2 about American Bubble Boy. So we're going to have some opportunities for some people to win some of their supplies and get their product out there a little more. So that's exciting. Again, this isn't going to need... It's not going to need a ton of bubble wrap. I'll put some packing paper in the bottom of this box as well. But I want to get just enough to where it looks professional and the buyer feels good about the way it was delivered to them. Thank you so much for liking that live. Very much appreciated. We're at almost 600 likes. Thank you, guys. Okay, like I said, we're going to reuse this box. That bubble wrap made it almost... I don't know. I may need a slightly bigger box for that. I don't know if you can tell. Adding that bubble wrap I may have to put this in a slightly bigger box, which I did not prep my boxes. So we'll just set this one to the side. It's not necessarily has to go out right this second. But we're going to move on just because I don't want to go. I've got boxes all the way over there, and I don't want to have to be like way off camera for a long time. I hate the competitive nature of Facebook Marketplace in my area. People bid up on good video game deals. We're actually in the process. We have a site through Facebook where it's all local garage sales. And basically the way it works is you have to live in our county to be a part of it. And you post something for sale at auction, and then it's all done through the comments. So like if, for instance, somebody lists a Wii system with a bunch of games for $100, you bid and say, okay, this is the time I'm bidding, this is the day I'm bidding, and this is the price I'm bidding. So there's 3 things that have to go into each bid. And then what it does is it extends the auction for 24 hours. So if you bid $100 and then somebody comes in 5 minutes later and bids $105, it goes 24 hours from the time that they bid on that item. So we're actually battling for a Wii and GameCube bundle right now. And the guy that's battling against us is literally bidding $1 at a time. So we'll wait like, 5 minutes, then we'll bid $5 up or $10 up. And he just keeps coming back $1 more, which is the minimum, but it becomes really annoying because this auction spreads out for way longer than you want it to. So, this thing that I sold here is a pair of Berkeys, some Berkey sandals. I probably got these at like a garage sale or a thrift store for probably like $5. And we sold these for $25.97. That's $25.97. And these sold with shipping. So I don't do free shipping on anything. So they paid the shipping as well. We got 4 watchers in either YouTube or Facebook. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, leave me a comment so I know where you're commenting at. And let me know, how does the stream look? Jiffy JK, it is very annoying. Sometimes like you can get some pretty good deals on that site. Like especially if it's clothing, they actually created a whole new auction site. It's basically the same thing, but they wanted it for just clothing. But when that wasn't a thing, people would post some pretty good clothing on there and you could get it for like $1, $3. But now that it has its own like clothing thing, we haven't been finding that kind of deal lately. We are going to put this in a box. We're going to add a little bit of bubble wrap. They don't need bubble wrap, but I'm just going to put them on top of each other like so. Put 1 layer of bubble wrap around it, and then we'll fill this box with paper. Thanks if you're just now joining in. Right now, we had a few items to ship out, and then we're actually going to, Lindsay, thank you. Facebook, a bit dark, but otherwise just fine. Yeah, I've got the door open back here, and I feel like if I stand in front of that door, it kind of changes the lighting. I've got 3 lights in here though. But I did notice when I watched my stream back the other day that it was looking a little dark, but I'm glad that it's not choppy. That's the thing that I've been really fighting out here in the barn. You have to be on it 24/7 on Facebook Marketplace to get great deals. You really do. And even if you're on there for 24/7, sometimes people will like list something for a good deal and then you'll commit to buy it and then they'll just sell it to somebody else. So it can be a very frustrating place to try to deal on Facebook. But spoiler alert, it's not in my 3 favorite ways to source, but I have gotten some good deals off there. And again, I think the best way to get good deals on Facebook is to not do the overall marketplace tab. It's to look in your specific county for like we have chatter pages around us. So like a town will have a chatter page. I feel like those are the best places and those local pages to actually get those deals, not when they just post it for general on the whole overall marketplace. I miss out on items that have been listed for less than 5. I know sometimes it's up and then it's gone. We bought a PlayStation bundle not too long ago. And it was a PlayStation 1 with Resident Evil 2. And the deal was listed and it was basically what the PlayStation would sell for. So all the games would be free. We committed to buy it. And then the buyer still sold it to us, but told us that she had a ton of people messaging saying this game's worth more than what you're asking and blah, blah, blah. And trying to to upsell her to sell it to them. Thankfully, she committed to sell it to us, and she honored that word. But that's the kind of stuff you deal with on Facebook. Okay, we've got some paper in that box. Good morning from YouTube. What's going on, Vince? How's it looking over on YouTube? As long as it's not choppy, that's what we're shooting for. This internet out here has been such a pain in the butt. But I finally got it kind of working. I still lose a ton of speed from the house, but my up speed's pretty good right now. So I think it's been fairly well on YouTube and on Facebook. Okay, so this was those Berkeys. We just got a couple more things to ship, and then we'll get into the main topic today, which is my favorite ways to source. And eventually, probably next week sometime, or maybe in 2 weeks, because I'd like to maybe do like every other week. I'm going to do another podcast like this, but it's going to be my 3 worst ways to source, the things that I don't like. Yesterday, I bought a Wii for $75 with 20 games with Mario Kart, Mario Sports Mix Wii guitar. Nice. Those Wii guitars are like 30 to 40 bucks by themselves. Mario Kart's like 20. So you made all your money back on just a couple things, basically. That's a great deal. The Wii stuff seems to be you can get that stuff a little easier. I don't think everybody understands that Wii stuff still sells really well. So that seems to be the thing that you can still get. The thing that's really hard to get is anything that's cartridge based. So if a Super Nintendo pops up for sale or a Nintendo 64, good luck getting that. It's going to be very hard. Okay, moving on here. This came from a sale last year where this very wealthy woman decided that she was bored at home. She didn't have a job. So she started doing retail arbitrage. So this is a pair of kids' New Balance sneakers. And she had a whole upstairs full of retail arbitrage stuff. And if you don't know what retail arbitrage is, it's basically going to a retail store like Target, Walmart, Kohl's, TJ Maxx, and buying stuff at retail, technically retail prices. Normally it's clearance prices that you're getting it at, but you get those items at clearance prices and then you resell them for higher. Retail arbitrage is kind of tough because it's normally flooded. So when you find an item that's on clearance, a lot of time there's like 50 of that item. But she had a whole upstairs and we did work out a deal for like $8,000. We made good money on it, but it took a long time. We're still going through some of the stuff to sell, but these were part of that deal. So we're already into the profit. And in the grand scheme of things, we have like $1 into this. And these shoes sold for $15 and the buyer paid shipping. Let's see here. Jiffy GameCube 2, nearly impossible. That's true. The GameCube stuff is hard to find. The GameCube, though, is actually, I just released a reel last week, and it started from a GameCube deal that I got off Facebook. GameStop employee did me. Someone was trading an N64 bundle, and I asked how much, and they said, I can't do that. Did me dirty. Oh, God. Yeah. I actually went to a pawn shop not too long ago, and the pawn shop was not going to give this guy very much money for his PS5, and we worked out a deal in the parking lot. I just followed him outside. Ended up buying some PS2 stuff from him as well. Okay, so these shoes rattle in their own box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put just a little bit of packing paper in this box. Then I'll seal packing paper around it in the bigger box. Again, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine when things are rattling around inside of a box. And if it's already rattling before you get it into the shipping box, it's just going to keep rattling, no matter how well you pack the box around it. There are some people that wait in the parking lot and do it that way. I know at one point we have sorry, this paper can be kind of loud. One of our local chains around here is called Disc Replay. And I know that people were trying to do that, just waiting in the parking lot and catching people walking in. And they actually started issuing notices like, if you do that and we catch you, you won't be allowed in the store anymore. And, or you'll be asked, whatever they can do to try to stop you. If you're in the public parking lot, there's not much they can do, but they can ban you from the store. So that's what they were trying to do to people that were buying stuff in the parking lot. I actually did buy stuff in a Disc Replay parking lot one time, but it was because they couldn't accept the thing that the person brought. At the time, it was, I think it was 3DO stuff, and they weren't really taking 3DO. This was multiple years ago. So Disc Replay has expanded, and now they pretty much sell anything they can get their hands on. But at the time, they pretty much just stuck to the basics, the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo. So this person brought this 3DO stuff in, and they didn't want it. So I followed them out, and I did get some 3DO stuff. Yeah, Jiffy, they'll trespass you. Okay, this box is just about ready. Like I said, as soon as we're done with this, we'll start on the main topic on this video, which is something I'm excited to talk about. So, because sourcing is by far my favorite thing to do when it comes to reselling. Perfect. That box isn't rattling around. And we're at almost 900 likes in that TikTok live. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. So cool when you guys are liking that live for me. And again, if you're not following me, go ahead and give me a follow. I post reels all the time, and we've been doing live a lot more. So I was going live about once a week. I'm trying to do a little more consistent with that as well. These were the New Balances. And what else do we have? We shipped the 2. That's got to wait. Okay, this is the hardest thing that I have to ship today. And it's because it's pretty tall. So this is a reminder that Christmas holiday stuff can sell year-round. So we actually just sold this. This brand is called Jimmy. It's one of my favorite holiday brands to buy. The animatronics can sell really well. Sometimes you can sell some of these for like $85, $100. This one was missing the battery door. Technically, it wasn't missing the battery door. I forgot to remove the mark from Goodwill. Technically, it wasn't missing the door when I bought it, but I bought this one with a better snowman, and I took his door and put it on the better snowman because that other one sold for like $75. So this was already a little bit cheaper of one. So the one you want to really look out for when it comes to Jimmy is the one that's holding snowflakes and he spins them. Those are a really good one. So if you ever see one of these snowman or Santa Claus holding a link of snowflakes, when he dances, he spins those snowflakes. That's a really good one to get. And this is the box that I use for my packing paper. So when my packing paper gets delivered, this is the box they send it in. So we're going to alter this box slightly. Miss some stuff here. Let me see here. What do you do? What do you mean, what do I do? What do you mean by that, love? Thanks, Cosmic, for following me. Do you ever do yard sales to just get rid of inventory? I don't, because if I have a garage sale, it means I can't go to garage sales. And garage sales is, surprise, surprise, one of my favorite ways to source that we're going to talk about in just a minute. So I refuse to have a garage sale because I want to go to the garage sales. Jimmy is great. I agree. I had one of those as well. It's the Heat Miser song. Yeah, so I think it's the Snow Miser. Like a reseller or a thrifter. I am both. I resell, I thrift, I collect. I kind of do it all. Love, and we'll let me finish packing this up, and I'll tell you a little bit about my history. I normally try to do that once a live, just so you know kind of where I'm coming from. But I want to get this one packed up because this one is kind of a pain in the butt. Because as you can tell, it's pretty big. The box is a little big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this box down to size a little bit. If I can find my knife. There's my knife. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make a notch. Try to hold him up. Right in the corner. So it'll be right over here, just above the snowman's head. So we put it right in the corner. And then I slice that box all the way to the top. And now I can take the snowman out. So he was basically my ruler. So it's going to be hard to see this, but I put a cut into the box. You can kind of see it there. So I know where I need to cut across. Very hard to do this on camera. So I'm going to take a slice and we're just going to go straight across here. So now we have this cut going across the box. You can see that. And then I'm going to make another cut going down the corner, and I'm going to meet with that line that we just did. Okay, so we got that cut going. Okay. So we have our line that goes across, and then we have our cuts going up the corner of the box now. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a nice cut down the length of this part. And the whole goal of doing this is to shorten the size of this box. One, when you ship, the dimensions mean a lot. So if we can lower those dimensions, it's going to be cheaper shipping, and we'll use less packing material to get it in the box. Okay, so now making sure all my cuts went through, and this is what we're left with. You'll see we got cuts going all the way around. And now I can fold this box down where we did our cut across here. Like so. So you can see how we cut that box down now. And now what we're going to do, as I drop the box, trying to show it on camera is pretty tough. So we're going to make that cut right here all the way over on both sides. I have a knife with a scoring wheel on the other side. It's nice for resizing. Yeah, I used to see those a lot, and I just use one of these, and I just don't cut it as hard. So the goal is to make a cut, and what he's saying, or she, I'm not sure, probably, Jiffy, looks like a guy. What he is saying is you can score it, so it just puts holes in here. So once you get those holes, you can fold it without making a full cut. I just do a light cut, so it's not going all the way through, but it's enough to fold that cardboard. So now that we got that cut on there, we're going to do another fold. And we just got one more to do, and then we'll be all good with this box, and then we'll tape it up. This is one of those aspects that's just kind of hard to show on camera, and it doesn't translate well, but it's very necessary when you're reselling to get good at resizing boxes. So now this is what our box looks like. I'm going to tape that all up. So it holds in place for us. And even though it doesn't actually come all the way together, inside the box, there's already a piece there. So it's not like anything's going to get in. So although cosmetically it doesn't look the greatest, it's still perfectly protected. Now just getting it taped up. That's the hard part. Because you want to make sure that this holds and looks as good as you can make it. So perfect. So now we got a much closer size box to what we need. I am going to put a small layer of bubble wrap around our snowman. I don't think he really needs it that much. It just looks nice. Cover flaws with eBay tape. Exactly. I actually don't buy the eBay tape, though. I buy all clear packing tape. So I just tape it up real nice. I've never had complaints about my packing. Even when you can see holes in the boxes and stuff, there's always actual cardboard behind those holes. And like I said, I've never had any complaints. And normally I have in my the reviews people leave, it's normally how good I packed it, because I tend to put bubble wrap on everything. I tend to overpack a little bit. Love, thank you so much for liking that live. Very much appreciated. And of course, I did one bubble short, so my bubble wrap didn't reach all the way around my snowman. Not a big deal. We're just going to add another piece. Again, he doesn't really need the bubble wrap for protection. It's just more to make him look nicer in the box. Give that buyer that extra sense of security that you took some extra time to try to protect their item. But the packing paper that I'm going to use in here is going to keep it from moving around and do enough protection anyway. Okay, so now we just do, I'm going to put a little bubble wrap around his base, because that's the plastic part. That's the part that's most likely to crack or break. And then we're left with this. I'm not going to worry about the front or the back, because once I sit him in the box, I'm going to sit him on his side, and there's going to be packing paper all around it. So we're going to start with that paper inside the box. Give him a nice bed to lay on. And as you can tell, that is a much closer tight fit now. So I'm not going to have to add as much packing paper. I do need to cut down these corners so I can fold the top down. There we go. And just put some paper around him and he'll be all good. Little on top. It looks like I need a little more on top because there's still some space. And now that looks perfect. Now we just got to fold all of our corners down. I know this is the part that's not very fun to watch, so we're almost done, guys, and then we'll talk about the main topic today. There we go. Perfect. While I'm finishing up this box, I'll talk a little bit about my history for those of you that are new to me and my channel. I basically got started reselling in about 2004, 2005 when I started collecting video games. I got to the point where I had a bunch of doubles. And I am not a variant collector. I don't collect doubles. I really only needed one per game for every collection. So I had all these doubles and I needed to get rid of them. So reselling gave me a way to get rid of those doubles and have money to fund the collection. I did that for many years. And then I started doing more reselling stuff. Basically, when I got to the point where I was already out looking for stuff to sell for the collection. Why not expand to clothes? Why not expand to toys? I did that for a few years as that's kind of when I became a part-time reseller. And that gave me extra funds to use to go on vacation, to have fun expense stuff where I just wanted it for myself. And then about 3 years ago, I went full-time. So ever since then, I've been a full-time reseller. My collection has dwindled over the years because I had 2 children that take up my time, and I'd rather be with them than collecting video games. So I do have a small collection now, but it's a lot smaller than it used to be. So that's kind of the history of what I do and why I resell. So now this is the full-time gig, and I love it. I don't have to work for a boss. I get to set my own schedule. For instance, last week was spring break for my girls, and I just took the whole week off. I didn't have to list anything. I was still making sales because we have 1,500 items listed between 2 stores. So the sales kept rolling in and I kept making money, and I just made sure I did my shipping. So the shipping is the only thing I really did last week. And I was able to spend all that time with my kids and my wife. So, okay. Just getting this last box taped up. I want to make sure that since I did alter this box, I always add a little extra tape because there's now cuts on the cardboard. So I try to go a little above and beyond and make sure that this box is going to hold up as well as it can. And then I'll take this part off later. We've got like a packing slip from when they sent it to me. So we'll take care of that here in a little bit. Okay, that's all my shipping today. So now we're going to move on to the part that I really wanted to do. And this is kind of going to be like a live podcast. Sorry, needed a little drink there. So welcome if you're just now joining in. So we're going to start the podcast portion. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about my three favorite ways to source for inventory. And if for some reason, Glowing Beauty, thank you so much for following me, and Vex as well. Thank you guys so much. Oliver, thanks for liking that live. If for some reason you don't resell and you're just here out of curiosity, when I talk about sourcing for inventory, we're talking about going and buying stuff. So whether that be at a thrift store, a garage sale, Walmart, anytime that you go out looking to buy stuff to sell, that's what I consider sourcing. And my apologies, like if you don't need to know the definition of sourcing, but we'll just keep it as detailed as possible for maybe some of those people that are new to me or new to reselling in general. So, running out of breath here. Okay, so we're going to start with my third favorite way to source. We're only going to talk about the top three. And then next week, or maybe the week after, we're going to talk about my three least favorite ways to source, because there's some stuff that I just don't like to do. So we'll talk about that next week. Glowing Beauty, thank you so much for following me. Very much appreciate it. But there does take a bit of homework to find out what to source, right? There does. So finding out what to source is a whole new topic, a whole new category. Basically, I talked about this yesterday a little bit. You really want to focus on items that sell quickly and that are desirable. So I do have a video somewhere on my page about sell-through rate. You definitely want to familiarize yourself what sell-through rate means. Just to be very general, it basically means the ratio for how many of an item is listed and how many has sold. So if we're selling this Star Wars Pez dispenser, and there are, let's say, 5,000 listed and only 100 sold, that is a very poor sell-through rate. You should never buy this to sell it. It's just not going to move. There's way more available and they're just not selling. Now, if it was opposite, where this is a rare one, where there's only 5 listed and there's 100 that have sold, that is a really good sell-through rate. So you want that ratio to be as close to 100% as possible. So if you can find an item that has the same amount listed as the same amount sold, that's 100% sell-through rate. So if there's 100 listed in the last 90 days and there's 100 sold in the last 90 days, that's 100% sell-through rate. So anytime that you can go higher than that, so 5 listed, 100 sold, that's an incredible item. That's the stuff you want to source. How do we find the information on how many are listed and how many are sold? Great question. So when you go to eBay, you want to do everything through the eBay app or the eBay platform. I prefer the app. My phone's recording me right now, so I can't show you. But when you search for an item on the search bar, so you go and you say, I want to see how much this Star Wars Pez dispenser sells for. You type in the item as detailed as you can, but not so detailed that you're going to cut out all the listings that you're looking for. So if I was going to do this, I would look up the date that this Pez dispenser is from, probably like 94. Which guy is this? I don't even know. I don't know. Whoever, General something. Palpatine, is that Palpatine? I don't even know. But you would type in like 1994 Palpatine Pez dispenser. Then it'll bring up a whole bunch of listings. And you can sort by condition. That's the way I like to do it. So if you sort by condition, you'll go to, as long as you know where to go for like your sorting stuff, find condition and hit used, and tell you how many are used ones that are listed. Then the opposite, you want to click on sold listings. And again, I don't have that in front of me. I do have videos that show how to do that though. So you want to go to the sold listings and the same thing, sort by condition, and it'll tell you how many have sold of that. So it's all done through the search feature. That's how you can find that sell-through rate. Unless you get it cheap enough and you don't mind holding on to it for a while. Very important though. So that's a problem I actually had when I was first getting started reselling. I'd look up something and I'd be like, oh, that thing sold for $40 and it's only a quarter. But the sell-through rate was so horrible that you may hold on to that item that sold one time for $40 and you may hold on to it for 2 years and you keep lowering the price and then you end up selling it for $10 because the one time it sold was a fluke. So you definitely want to find cheap stuff, but you want to make sure that people want it because you're just going to have a bunch of stuff that's not selling. So every person is going to source differently and they're going to have their own criteria. As I've gone full time and done this for many years, I just know that I want to find those items. I want to have a healthy mix. So I have some that are long-term, but my items that are long-term are a lot smaller in quantity than the stuff that I have that I know will move quick. And there's certain categories that just move quicker anyway. Like video game stuff will always move fairly quick for you. Filter sold / completed items last 90 days. Yep. And it's always done by last 90 days anyway. You don't actually have to filter that out. So it'll always do the 90 days. Let me get another drink here. Okay. Let me stress that my list of what I find to be the best ways to source is my personal list. So you may disagree with me, and I'd love to know if you disagree in the comments, but this is going to be my personal list. Vince says, hobbyist reseller here. You mentioned selling from 2 stores. What are the positives to having more than one? So for those of you that do not know, I have a business partner. My business partner, his name is Brandon, and he's on Instagram. And I think he does have a TikTok now as IndyFlip. That's INDYFLIP. And the reason I have 2 stores is because I have a personal store, which is just my stuff. So if I source it without Brandon, it'll go onto my personal store, except video games. We pretty much share all video game stuff. Then me and Brandon have our own store, and that's what our LLC is under. That's more of the business stuff. So that is why I have 2 stores. If it was just me, I would not have a second store. Having the second store is just a necessity because I share that store with Brandon. So that's why I have 2 stores. I would say some people do have a second store just in case something happens to the first one, they have something to bounce to. Like if you get some strikes on your account for accidentally selling like a fake item, or you get reported for something that was out of your control and some reason your store gets shut down, you would have a backup to go to. But I never had a backup. I always just had one until I shared a store with a business partner. So me and Brandon both have access to that store, which is why I have 2. Okay, our first thing that we're going to talk about, this is my number 3 favorite way to source, and it's just thrift stores. I don't like the bins, so this is just your standard thrift store. So Goodwill, Salvation Army, local thrift stores. To me, that's my 3rd favorite way to source. Okay, I just tried to search, and it is not the easiest. Rosebud, give me a message on TikTok. Just send me a message, say, hi, this is Rosebud, whatever. And I will try to forward you the video that I took that I showed how to find that stuff, because I do have a video on that. So just send me a message and I will get that to you. So my 3rd favorite is thrift stores. And I have some reasons why I like thrift stores. The first is it's the most accessible way to do inventory a little cheaper versus like Walmart and stuff. Don't worry, Rosebuds. It's not a trouble at all. I don't mind doing that for you. Oh, thank you so much for the Heart Lime Kool-Aid. Thank you so much. But thrift stores are everywhere. So everyone has a thrift store near them, a Goodwill, something. You can go into them 7 days a week. They're always available to source, which is why I like it so much. Because I can go drop stuff off at the post office and I can go in and source whenever I want. So that's why I like thrift stores, just because they're always there. Another thing is there's tons of potential at a thrift store. They have so much inventory coming into their store. They can't possibly send every good thing off or price every good thing high. You're going to have thrift stores that are pretty competent and do really well at like pricing the higher end stuff. But these are just people. These aren't people that are attached to the product. You know, if this guy named Mark is the one pricing the goods in the back. It's no difference to him if he accidentally lets $100 item slip out into the retail section for $5. He's not losing $95. He's just still getting paid to do his job. So there's going to be stuff that they miss. There's going to be stuff that hits the floor that's valuable. Again, when you think of all the possible potential in a thrift store, you have toy section, you have the book section, you have clothing. They cannot possibly price everything appropriately. So there's so much potential that you can get in those thrift stores. It's why I like going to them, because you can never know what you're going to find. There's always something in a thrift store that is profitable to sell. The last thing of why I really like thrift stores is because, especially for your local thrift store. So I live around the Indianapolis area, and I have, 20, 30 different thrift stores I could possibly go to in any given day. But I have my closest to my house. Every reseller has their thrift store where they go any other. And that thrift store, you're going to be able to form relationships with those people because you're in there enough. I go into my thrift store anywhere from 3 to 6 times a week. So I know them mostly by name. I walk in, I'm like, hey, Quinn, how you doing today? I know the managers. I know the assistant managers. If you can form those relationships with those thrift stores that you go into all the time, they're more likely to help you out. So for instance, if you do a lot of thrifting at a Goodwill or a thrift store in general, you know that the best things are that come out from the back on a new rack or a new cart. A rack meaning the clothing is on the racks. A cart would be hard goods. So they roll out one of those carts. All of that new stuff, that's where you're going to find the most profitable items because they haven't been sitting on the shelf for a week. You're the first person seeing them out when they roll them out. At my local Goodwill, they know me. They're like, hey, there's Trevor. He's the reseller. A lot of the times they're waiting to bring stuff out until they have a minute to do it. If they see me standing around, they know that I'm waiting on one of those carts. So they're more likely to bring it out to me. So I get a lot of those new carts brought out specifically for me. It's just one of those relationships that you need to build, you need to foster, and you'll have better luck at your thrift stores to do it. Creekside, thank you so much for sharing that live. And Kay's Granny, thank you for the follow. Rosebuds, thank you for the follow. If I missed anybody, I apologize. Thank you guys so much. But yeah, number 3, thrift stores. Build those relationships up, okay? It's very important to have those relationships to where they're bringing it out to you. A little tip on how to build those relationships is I mentioned they bring those carts and racks out specifically for me at times. I thank them every single time they bring a new cart or a new rack out. They're not doing it just because of me. They still have to get the cart out. They're just doing their job, but I thank them every single time. So Lori is one of the assistant managers where in my specific Goodwill, every time Lori brings a cart out, thank you, Lori. I appreciate it. She's going to do it regardless. That's her job. She has to bring the cart out eventually. But I find it's nice to give them a thank you, and it makes you feel like maybe they're doing it a little bit for you. So I always thank them every single time they bring a cart out and learn their names. Even the guys that aren't in charge of bringing the carts out. Like I talk to Quinn every time I go into the thrift store. We have a little chat about sports. It's just good to have those relationships. And it's going to come down to a point where there's not a tag on an item or there's a flaw on something. And you'll be like, hey, there's a big hole in this. Could you do any better? If you have those relationships, they're way more likely to help you out. I've had them price stuff a little better than they probably would in the past. So just make sure that you're building and fostering those relationships. So number 3, general thrift stores. No problem, Vince. Meg, thank you so much for the follow, and thank you for sharing the live, guys. I very much appreciate that. DW, thank you so much. That was number 3. Have a little swig of this chocolate milk. I'm running out of breath. So number 2 and number 1, I really debated on which one would be my favorite. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to do number 2 is going to be a private pick. So let me explain this. They made me do it. Who made you do it? I'm glad you did it, though. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for following. I very much appreciate it. So a private pick. So those of you that maybe are new to reselling or not super familiar with all the terminology, a private pick is when you go to someone's home and you are the only one there that is trying to buy their items. So this wouldn't be a garage sale. This wouldn't be an estate sale because they're inviting the public to come in. This would be when just you are invited to look at their goods. And there's many reasons why I like private picks. Meg, thank you so much for the peer pressure, getting DW to follow me. So Facebook Marketplace I don't consider that a private pick because Facebook, they're posting that item for everyone to see. This is more along the lines of you're the only one that's actually viewing these items. And I'll tell you a little bit about how we can line up some of those private picks. But let me talk about some of the reasons that I like it. The first is there's no competition besides you. You're the only one in the house. You're the only one that met them at Starbucks or wherever you're doing this at. Typically, it's at their house if it's a private pick, but you're the only one there. So there's no competition. The other thing is there's no rush. So if you're at a garage sale or you're at an estate sale, if you guys have done those before, you are literally trying to get into the sale and out of the sale as quickly as possible because you want to go to more. So especially a garage sale, the goal is to get in and get out with as much stuff as you can, as quick as you can, because there's more waiting for you. And an estate sale is very similar. You're running in, you're throwing stuff into a bag, trying to get to the next item and then the next item. At a private pick, there's no rushing because there's no competition. You don't have to hurry along. The other stuff is typically a private pick is going to be the best inventory you source because just like Goodwill, when they bring out a new rack or a new cart, all the best stuff is on that rack. It hasn't been picked through. So at a private pick, you are getting access to the best stuff that this person has. So it's always going to be pretty quality stuff because you're the first person seeing it. You haven't had somebody dig through it yet. It hasn't been picked through. A private pick, you're normally getting the best that they have. The other thing is you can schedule private picks. And this kind of goes with the garage sale thing. I do not like to schedule anything on a Thursday or a Friday. Doctor's appointment. No, thank you. Do it on a Monday. I got to go get my head shaved or whatever it is. I don't go get haircuts, obviously. I don't have any hair. But I don't schedule anything for Thursdays and Fridays. So a private pick, you can normally schedule it. You can work out with the seller when you're going to go. And I like to go during the week, during the day, and not a garage sale day. So it's something that you can normally work out with the seller. And again, it helps with that not rushing thing. You have a dedicated time to go look at their stuff. And we actually have a private pick today that we're going to meet a seller at 11 o'clock at their house. So we scheduled this last week that we know 11 o'clock on Tuesday, we have a private pick scheduled. We're going to go look at his stuff and hopefully buy some things. We also have a private pick scheduled for tomorrow on Wednesday, 11 o'clock. It's something you can schedule. It's something that you can have looking forward to. The other thing is with a private pick, you can normally get a lot of inventory on one go. So in a thrift store, the chance of you filling up a whole cart is pretty slim. It'll happen every now and then, but you're not normally filling up a whole cart. At a private pick, when you're in this person's house, they're already in that mindset of, I want to sell stuff. So when we go into a private pick, we give them a list. We look for video games. We look for old toys. We look for sports cards. We look for clothing before the year 2000. We look for records. We give this entire list of things we look for. So you're more likely to fill up a whole carload at a private pick than you are at a thrift store or at a garage sale. Because a garage sale, sometimes you'll load up a car, but for the most part, they have a set number of things out. You're not buying the whole garage sale. A private pick is an opportunity to buy a ton of stuff, especially if you're buying a collection. Like if you buy a toy collection, you're getting a ton of inventory at one stop. And that's another reason that private pick is my number 2 reason. Does anybody have a question about private picks in general? Just call me Full Cart Meg. Meg, are you able to do that at like normal thrift stores or more of the bins? Because I know people that go to the bins, they can fill up a little better than like a normal thrift store. But let me know if you guys have any questions about like the private pick before we move on to my favorite way to source. How can you have a private pick for a bunch of stuff? Great question, Rosebud. We're going to talk about that in my number one way to source, and I'll mention some other things you can do at the end as well. I am pretty good at filling a cart at our normal retail Goodwill. That's awesome. Meg, normally when I go into Goodwill, I buy anywhere from like 1 to 5 items. It's pretty hard for me to fill up a cart. There are times I do it, but it's rare that I'm doing it compared to garage sales or thrift store or private picks. But Rosebud, we're going to talk about my number one favorite way to source, and that kind of leads into the private picks as well. And I'll give you some tips on how to do some private picks outside of the thing that we're getting ready to talk about. I just got some chocolate milk on the glasses. I just got an offer on an eBay item. Okay. Moving on to my number one, by far, I shouldn't say by far, because it was close with number 2. But my number one favorite way to source is garage sales. And I have a lot of reasons why garage sales are my favorite way to source. So we're going to talk about those. Video Game Hunt, thanks for joining. Very much appreciate you. Okay. Some of the reasons that I like garage sales. Again, I would be garage sales or number one should be private picks. And just to tell you, the number one reason that I decided to make it my number one is because garage sales are more available than private picks. So they were pretty much tied with me, but you can find way more garage sales than you can find private picks. So that's why it took the number one spot. Cheap. LO, I have one every Saturday. And that's one of the reasons we're going to talk about why I like going. Garage sale season is about to start here soon, but it's 35 today. The same. I've had like 5 garage sales that I've been to in the last 2 weeks, but it was 39 yesterday, but we're just in that area where they're going to start being a lot more prominent. Rosebud, where are you located that you can have garage sales in January? You got to be somewhere warm for that. Okay, let's talk about some of the reasons that I like garage sales. First of all, when you're a reseller, most of your time is spent inside thrift stores, inside estate sales. You're working inside your home in front of lights. You're listing normally in your house. I list in my car sometimes, but you're almost inside all the time. Garage sales is a time that you get out. You get to go to these garage sales outside. You get fresh air. Sometimes they're in really nice, like scenic areas. So that's one of the reasons that I like garage sale. It just breaks the monotony of being inside all the time, especially when you go out on like a nice summer morning. It's like 70 degrees and you get to be outside. Obviously, you're getting in and out of your car, but you're spending a lot of it outside. And it's just nice to get outside. Because like I said, when you're a reseller or even when you work at a normal job, for the most part, you're inside all day. So garage sales is that way to get that fresh air and get outside. The other thing is I just think they're fun. Like I remember it when I was a kid, getting up early, looking for those toys, looking for those video games. It's just fun. My daughters love garage selling. You try to wake up my daughters on a normal school day and they're grumpy. They're not wanting to get up. I can go in on a Saturday morning at 6:30 in the morning, whisper, "Are you ready for garage sales?" And they wake up because they're so pumped. They're so excited. They love to get their little coin purse. They put some money in it. They're ready to go garage selling. It's so much fun. It's by far, I think it's the most fun way to source. The other thing is, actually, we're going to go to that one. The prices. Rosebud mentioned it as well. The prices are by far the best way to source when it comes to cheap items. Garage sales are always the lowest priced items. There's some crazy people at garage sales that sell stuff for high, but for the most part, you're going to find the cheapest inventory you can at a garage sale. There's a couple reasons for that. People that are having garage sales, for the most part, are looking to get rid of stuff. They're not out there to try to make a bunch of money. They want to get rid of the things from their house. So they're putting a whole bag of Legos out there for $1. They're putting a whole video game system for $20 with games. They don't necessarily care, I'm making $20 or I'm making $1. Their goal, for the most part, everyone's different, obviously. For the most part, they want the stuff out of their house. So the prices are always cheap. They don't want to price stuff up and then have to take it back in on Sunday. They want to get rid of it. The other thing You did sell a PlayStation for $150 once with a bunch of games, Rosebuds, because unless it was like a brand new PS5, that'd be a pretty good sale. But I'm gonna guess that it came with a bunch of stuff with it. No games. Crazy. Was it a PS5 or was it a PS3, like fairly new when it came out? Because if it's closer to release date, you can also obviously get a little more for stuff like that. But the other reason that prices, it was old. Okay, maybe like I'm not sure. I'm not sure why it sold for 150, because unless it was like something pretty rare, maybe it was like I don't know your situation. For the most part, though, a PlayStation's not going to bring that much money unless you got stuff with it. But the other reason that prices can be pretty low is you can haggle at a garage sale. You don't, if somebody has a price of $10 on an item and you don't want to pay $10, you can offer whatever you want. The buyer the seller is never required to sell. So if you go to Rosebud's garage sale and she has something priced at $10 and you're like, hey, I want to offer you $1. She doesn't have to give it to you for $1. It's not like you're forcing her, but you have that ability to haggle a little bit. Normally what I like to do is if it's something I don't want to pay $10 for, I'll start at $5. Maybe I'm okay settling at $7, $8 tops, but you want to start a little lower because it's part of the game of a garage sale. There's going to be some back and forth. So most people that price stuff for their garage sale, they price it at 10, knowing fully well that they'll take 7, they'll take 5. So it's this fun balance of offering a little less and then settling somewhere in the middle most of the time. But that's another reason that your prices can be so good at garage sales, because you're able to haggle. You can also haggle at pawn shops, but I found that most thrift stores, unless it's like a very local thrift store, you're not going to be able to haggle. And you obviously can't walk into Walmart and, I'd rather give you $5 for this $7 item. Maybe it wasn't the PlayStation. Maybe it was another Nintendo. That would be my guess, Rosebud. Nintendos will always sell more than PlayStations in general, unless it's like a PS5. But it was probably a Nintendo. That would be my guess. Okay. The other thing about garage sales, let's see. Numbers. And that's kind of why I said that this takes the spot of private picks. There's just way more available, especially you get into that sweet spot of garage sale season and people start having community sales, or in Indiana, which I'm sure it's like that a lot of places, you have festivals. So we have a festival in my hometown on the third weekend of September every year in this small town. When they have that festival, the whole town has garage sales. We have the thing in Indiana called the Covered Bridge Festival, which is like, it's one county, but it's like 6 different towns. During the Covered Bridge Festival, every town and even people out in the country have a county-wide garage sale. So you can hit 100 garage sales in a day. So there's just way more opportunity to get stuff at a garage sale versus at a private pick. So now we're going to talk about how the garage sale kind of leads into the private pick. And let's see how we discuss this. So we'll talk about contacts. One of the things that I love the most about garage sales is it opens the door to talk to people. If you watch any of my garage sale reels, you will see a lot of the time the stuff I'm buying isn't even stuff that they had out at the sale. So I may go to a sale that is a bunch of perfume and clothing, and I always ask, hey, do you have any of this stuff? And a lot of the time it's people either don't think about bringing it out because they don't think people would want it, or they think people don't want to pay me what I want to get for it. And their price may not be as unreasonable as they think. So having that opportunity to actually talk to people leads to more sales, especially if you're a good communicator, which I try. I believe that I'm a pretty good communicator. I like to talk to people at these sales, and it always leads to more purchases, and I get contacts. And this is one of my biggest tips that I tell people now. It used to be I would go to a garage sale and I'd be like, hey, do you have any video games? And they're like, I've got video games at my mom's house, but I don't have them here. So all the time, the person, hey, good morning, Chet. Good morning. But all the time, the person will be like, why don't you leave me your number and I'll call you when I find them. I'm sure many of you got the puzzle piece because I must have hit an hour. Come on. Big fat fingers. I can't get that puzzle piece in there. Jeez Louise. There we go. Okay. So I'm sure if you guys have tried to leave contact information, this has probably happened to you. But the garage sale people will be like, why don't you leave me your number, leave me your name, what you're looking for. When I find it, I'll give you a call. I'm assuming most of you have probably experienced something like that. And I have found about 99% of the time, you won't get a call. It's not going to happen. They're not going to call you. They're going to lose your number. They're going to find it eventually, and they're going to sell it at a garage sale, or they're going to post it on Facebook, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, Rosebud, she's the one that has the garage sales. So this is the reason I start to do this. No, you don't have to be sorry, Rosebud. That's just the way it is. People aren't going to hold on to your number. They're going to lose it. They're not going to call you. But what I have found is if I ask for their number, most of the time, they will give it to me. So I'll be like, hey, I'm looking for video games. And they'll be like, oh, I have that. Can I get your number? I said, well, would you mind if I just got your number? And what I do is I text them right away. I'm standing in front of them. I get their number. I text, hi, this is Trevor. I look for video games. So she has my number now. I have their number. Then if I don't hear from them in a week or 2 weeks, I reach out. That way of contacting people has a much higher rate of getting stuff. It's still not like 100%. It's not even 50%, but it's way better than 99% of the time not getting that call. Now about, 80% of the time, they actually respond back at least. And maybe 30% of the time, 25% of the time, it leads to a purchase. So that is my number one tip for you guys. Instead of leaving your number for people, try to get their number. And then what I personally do, I have a ton of PS3 games I want to sell. Rosebud, I don't really deal with shipping, but have you tried to sell on Facebook Marketplace? That would, if you got a bunch, that'd be a good place to go. But I'm not in the business of buying from other states yet, maybe eventually, but I'm not in that business yet. But instead of leaving your number, do your best to get their number. And you don't have to be obnoxious about it. I'm not harassing them about, I need your number. It's just a nice, hey, would you mind if I got your number? And then I'll just text you right now so you have mine. And then what I personally do is at the end of garage sale season, I reach out to every contact that I made through garage sale season. And I do that at the beginning of garage sale season. So about 2 weeks ago, I reached out to over 100 people saying, hey, by the way, we met at your garage sale. I just copy and paste my message, but here's the stuff I look for. If you have anything like that, feel free to reach out. And that's led to these private picks. That's why we're doing these private picks. Hey, no problem, Rosebud. I will find that video and try to get it to you. And if I don't have one, I'll just make another one because a lot of people need to know that information. But get your numbers to people. You can get those contacts. And those contacts that you make is going to lead to private picks. So if you're at a garage sale and you spend $20 at this garage sale and then you end up getting their number and you are talking, a month later, that deal that you're going to do later, that's the private pick. So anytime that you can get into a position where you're talking to people, you're getting contacts, that's going to lead to private picks. That's why I think garage sales are the number one way to source, because not only are you sourcing inventory right then and there, you are getting contact for future purchases. Anytime that you can go and communicate with people, that's going to be opportunities. And like I said, even if they don't have something out for sale, if you're able to communicate with them, a lot of times they'll bring that stuff out for sale. I think it's funny because you wouldn't believe how many times I go to a garage sale and I'm with Brandon, my business partner. He turns around and all of a sudden I'm gone. I get invited into these people's houses all the time. They're like, oh, I do have a bunch of records down in my basement. Why don't you come in? I disappear. I'm in their house looking at their stuff. And once you step inside their house, I sometimes say, hey, that's a cool picture. There'll be like a picture of a NASCAR or something. I'll be like, you got any NASCAR clothing? And that'll lead to more purchases. So just use your communication skills. Anytime that you have the opportunity to talk to people, Tell them what you do. Tell them what you want. I find that the best thing you can do is be upfront and honest about your intent to resell. So in most of my videos, you'll see me telling people, hey, I need to buy this at a price that I can make money, because I'm honest about it. I'm not out there to buy a microwave that I want to put in my house for the most part. I'm out there to make money. And I feel like if I can be upfront and honest with people at the front of that conversation, it's going to lead to the expectations when we do come to an agreement that I'm going to get a good deal on it, because I need to make money. I don't think I missed any comments. Let me see what else I have here about these garage sales. I think that's pretty much everything I have. So Rosebuds, I think, was the one that said, how else can I get private picks? And I talked about it a little bit about garage sales, where once you can start communicating with people, that's going to lead to the ability to have those private picks. So the more you can talk to people, the more that you can set up private picks. And one way you can do that is through Facebook. So there's two ways that you can go about doing it. The first is you can put an ad out, which I do every now and then. I tend to not put it out on like the general marketplace, but I put it out on local pages that are specific to my town or my county. And I just do that with like, hey, I live in this town. Me and my business partner are looking for inventory. And I put, we dig, we go into basements, we go into garages. It doesn't matter how dirty it is, because sometimes you can find a hoarder house and that's just fun. That's fun to me. That's digging underneath and finding tubs buried under stuff. So you can put an ad out to people that can just contact you. That normally leads to some of our link ups that we bought private picks. The other thing is, if you find, sometimes I'll find something on Facebook Marketplace where it's like, it's an okay deal. There's not a ton of money to be made, but maybe they have more stuff. And if you go watch my reel where I was in this guy's living room and I bought a bunch of GameCube games and a Super Nintendo, that started on Facebook. He had a GameCube bundle that was priced pretty good. It wasn't like this huge moneymaker, but it wasn't like way over retail. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, I saw that you have this GameCube bundle. I'm possibly interested. Would you have any other stuff for sale? And then I said, I buy stuff to resell. So I buy video games, I buy Pokemon cards, I buy toys. And I gave him this huge list. He comes back with more video games that he hadn't had posted. And we made an arrangement to where I could come look at it. So as soon as I'm the one coming to his house, that Facebook deal, that turned into a private pick. And once I was in the house, you could just tell he wanted money and he wanted money quick. So I start saying again, hey, I also buy clothing. So he took me to his room. He showed me his closet of stuff that he had for sale. Jordan shoes, sweaters, t-shirts. I said, hey, I buy toys. So he looked for toys. He didn't find any that we could come to an agreement. We ended up only buying video games from him. But that step into his house and that invite of me coming there was already based on the fact I resell. So we had these expectations. I need to make money on it. And it became a private pick. That's another way that you can get one of those private picks. Another way to get private picks is to talk to your family and friends. I try to make it known to everybody that I'm friends with that this is what I do for a living. I buy stuff. I have friends that will text me, hey, do you have any interest in this? And it'll be some video games or it'll be some clothing. And I'll be like, I'll take anything you got. So basically, if they're thinking about donating something to Goodwill, I meet up with them. I take all that. I say, oh, these 2 items I think are worth selling. I'll take those 2 items. Then I'll donate the stuff to Goodwill. That's kind of like a private pick as well. You want to be upfront and honest with people that you deal with. You want them to know that your intent, if this is your intent, is to buy it to resell it. If you can establish that boundary from day one, they know that if you come to their house looking at the stuff that they have for sale, you need to buy it at a price that you can make money. It sets the expectation for everyone. So those are some of my tips. What are you doing, Bruno? My cat just jumped up here. So those are some of the my tips on how to go about doing a private pick. And as you could tell, if you've been in here for the majority of this live, It's all about communication. You want to talk to people. If you're at a garage sale, you want to talk to people. If you're at a thrift store, you want to talk to people. Keeping it to yourself that you resell is just going to hurt you in the long run. Yeah, if you go to a garage sale and they have some toys or video games and you give them some fudge lie about how you're only there to collect, they may give you a slightly better deal. But I found that if you just tell them, hey, I'm going to buy this to resell it, they'll normally bring you more out. And I still tell people that I resell at every garage sale, and they're still willing to make deals. I haggle with people. I do it politely. I'm never rude. I don't lie to them. I don't say, hey, this item that you want $10 for only sells for $4. I need to buy it for $2. It's just not the way to do it. I feel that it's best to be upfront, honest from the very first conversation, and that should lead to good things for you in the future. So that is my top 3 ways to source. So just as a reminder, we got thrift stores coming in at number 3. Number 2 is private picks. And number 1 is garage sales. Those are my 3 favorite ways to source. Does anybody disagree with any of those? Do you hate going to garage sales? Do you hate going to normal thrift stores? I'd like to know, before I log off here, what are your guys' thoughts on garage sales, thrift stores, and not the bins? Because that's a whole different category that we'll actually talk about when I do my 3 least favorite ways to source. So garage sales, private picks, and thrift stores, Goodwills, Salvation Armies. Do you guys disagree? Do you hate doing those things? I'd like to know before I log off here. The dude, yes, got a Marilyn Monroe dress and a tux owned by Elton John. Just talking to people I know. That is awesome. Getting in communication with just people you know, they'll normally give you pretty good deals on stuff. You're like, oh, you sell on eBay? Hey, I have this signed Mickey Mantle card or whatever it is. So, dude, that's awesome that you got that stuff. So I'm curious, before I log off here, let me know, does anybody disagree with those 3? Do you hate garage sales? Because I have seen that in comments sometimes where people are like, I just hate going to garage sales. And to me, that's blasphemy. Jim Lucas over on YouTube says, estate sales. I've given up on Goodwill. Now, when you say estate sales, is that one of your favorite things to do, Jim? The dude, thanks for the follow. Grace agrees. She likes the garage sales. Nice. Creekside says, it's not my cup of tea. I like rummage type sales or group garage ones. So like a church sale where multiple people come together, Creekside, you like going to those more than just like an individual's house? Is that what you mean? How about flea market? I get 75% of my inventory from estate sales. Okay. I've had better luck at liquidation bin. I've never been to a liquidation bin, Oscar. That's something I can't really discuss whether I like it or not. I've never been to one. I went to a garage sale one time that was basically a liquidation bin, but I've never been to actually one of those stores. Estate sales. So Jim says, other than small town Goodwills, but he said, yeah, so he prefers estate sales. I don't want to talk about estate sales right now because that's going to be in one of my 3 least favorite ways to source. But I will talk about, somebody talked about flea market because flea markets kind of end up in the middle for me. So I can discuss flea markets a little bit because I'm not going to ruin anything for the next video. Here in Indiana, for the most part, flea markets aren't what other flea markets are like in other parts of the country. So I know when you watch a video and you think of somebody going to a flea market, it's normally like an outside event where cars will show up at 5 o'clock in the morning. They'll open up their trucks and they'll set up these tables for a flea market. We have a couple of those, but they're very rare. Most flea markets around Indiana operate like an antique store. So they're inside, people have booths, and that's what our flea markets are like. Again, there are a few exceptions. You can find them every now and then, but since Indiana is so cold during the wintertime, you're not going to find those during the winter. And in the summertime, there's only a few locations around me that actually do it. So it's hard to talk about flea markets because most people's idea of a flea market is much different than what we have here. I actually have booths in a flea market. Me and Brandon have like 5 or 6 booths in the same flea market, But this flea market is something where we have booths. I put stuff in it and then I just leave. There's staff that work at the flea market that when people shop, you have to write your booth number on there. They take it up to the register and then they buy it. And then some of the stuff is locked away in cases. So it's almost like an antique store. So I do not source at my own flea market. I go in there to drop stuff off, and that's pretty much all I do. Because I have found, for the most part, it's hard to find really good deals at that type of flea market. I would love to go to more flea markets where it's more like mobile garage sales, where they're opening up their cars, they're pulling out stuff. That's kind of like a garage sale, in my opinion. Those are a different story that I just don't really have that much experience around here. I think that's pretty much everything. Jim says you have to be picky in our area with the flea market. Be picky as in like the inventory that you're picking or which flea market you go to, Jim. Yes, individual ones creep me out. So Creekside, why do I'm just curious because this it's so much different than what I experience. Why do individual garage sales creep you out? Just because you're at someone's house? Like I said, I go into people's homes all the time. So I start at their garage sale and then I end up in their basement and just hope they're not going to lock me in there. Thankfully, I'm 6'4" and a pretty big guy. So most people aren't going to try something like that with me. But I love going to individual garage sales. To me, it's almost like every single garage sale I go to has the potential to become a private pick. So it's so much fun when you show up and they're like, oh, we got a bunch of crafting supplies on this table. And I've got my grandma's old bras on that table. I was like, oh, but do you have any old toys? Well, my kids had a bunch of Transformers back in the day that we have a tub in the basement. And there we go into the tub in the basement and buy stuff. So April, I definitely get that. As a woman, we do have to think about safety a bit more. I completely agree. Like I said, April, I have the advantage of being a 6'4" man that most people aren't going to try that on. But the funny thing is that a lot of the times the people inviting me into the home is a woman that's running the sale by herself. I guess I'm normally pretty friendly. I'm a friendly guy. So I guess I give off that air that I'm pretty safe. But when you see me and Brandon walking together, we're two pretty big burly guys. And we get invited into people's homes all the time. But I definitely get what you're saying, April. And I guess that's probably why Creekside has kind of the same feeling. Especially if like at April, you've been a woman this whole time. I'm not sure what that question means. I guess I feel more secure in a group setting. So the funny thing, so I definitely get what you're saying, Creekside, when you talk about like a church sale where there's a bunch of people there. But I actually get more uncomfortable when I go to a garage sale that's run by multifamily and I'm the only one there. That actually, it's funny because that actually creeps me out a little more. So if I go, Old Chef says, sorry, Retro, long running joke. No worries. No worries. I assumed it had something to do with being something kind of an inside joke. My husband is with me most of the time, but if I was alone, I'd be more hesitant. I definitely get that. But it's funny because like if I go to a multi-family sale, so we're still talking at somebody's house, but it's one of those garage sales where there's like 4 or 5 families running it. Oh, Bruno wanted to come say hi. You guys want to say hi to Bruno? Hi, Bruno. Hey, look up. You want to see the people on TikTok? You want to see the people on YouTube? This is Bruno. He's the big fat cat out in the eBay barn. There you go, buddy. So he came to say hi. He's been out in the field. I feel burrs on his tail. Bruno, they said hi to you, bud. He's already gone. But we have Bruno and Issa. We name all of our pets off of Pixar characters. So if you've ever watched Encanto, that's where it came from. But I lost my track of thought. So when I walk up to a house that's run by like 4 or 5 different families and I'm the only one there, I actually feel more uncomfortable because I feel like they're all watching me. You know, you got like 5 people sitting up by the money and they're just like watching you like walk around and shop. I feel like that's more uncomfortable. I very much would rather go to a sale when there's one person running the sale and I have one-on-one experience, or me and Brandon are kind of on a 2-on-1. Not that I feel like we're going to jump them or anything. It feels more comfortable to not be watched by a whole family of people. No, you should not talk about Bruno, Old Chef. We say that all the time. We're like, where's Bruno? And I'll be like, don't talk about Bruno. Yeah, so we have Bruno and we have Isa, which is short for Isabella. There are 2 barn cats. They protect the eBay stuff. Inside we have Jack, which he's not Pixar, but he is named from Cinderella. My wife loves Cinderella, so Jack is one of the mice on Cinderella. Then we have Remy, which, can anybody tell me what Remy is from if you're a fan of Disney and Pixar? I don't like being the only shopper at a sale. I feel like it. So, April, that's one of those things. It's like, yep, good job, old chef. Remy is from Ratatouille. And then we have like 4 fish, and they're just named random stuff. I don't know why we didn't go with the Pixar theme for them, but all the other animals are Pixar and Disney. Once the kids started having pets, those were all Pixar. Jack was before we ever had the kids. So I don't like being the only shopper at a sale. That's one of those things, like, I like being the only shopper as long as there's like one person running the sale. It just feels weird to be the only shopper when there's a bunch of people watching you. But if I'm the only shopper, I have less competition. So one of the most nerve-wracking things is when, like I said, I talk to people all the time and they bring out stuff for me. So if I'm like, hey, do you have any old video games? And they're like, yeah, I do. And then they bring out video games. I haven't bought them yet because there's still these people. And then there's like a bunch of people walking around. I get so nervous that those people are just going to like invade my deal and, try to outbid me or whatever the case is. So it's funny because Brandon's like real quick, like, let's get it paid for. And then he takes it to the vehicle. He does not like it like sitting out where people can see it. But it's just one of those things. Like, if you're the only one there, you have the opportunity to have a little more discussion with people and you have the opportunity to buy more stuff. It's awkward even more so if you don't see anything to buy. That is always awkward. No matter how many times you'll go to a garage sale, it's like you look around and you basically, without saying it, you're like, you're crap. Your stuff is crap and I don't want it, because it's basically what you're doing when you don't buy something. So I always try to ease the awkwardness a little bit. And before I leave, I just say, hey, thanks for letting us come look at your stuff, and just kind of like end on a positive note. But we hit over 5,000 likes, almost 6,000 likes on this live, guys. Thank you guys so much. I know I had a few people watching over on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you guys so much for watching over there. I'm really trying to get those YouTube views up, because if you know about monetization on YouTube, you have to have a certain amount of watch hours. So anyone that wants to follow me on YouTube and watch over there and check out my reels on YouTube, I would very much appreciate that, because I've been struggling. I've been doing YouTube longer than any other platform. I've been doing it for over a decade, and I just have not had good traction over there. Now, Facebook and TikTok has definitely been a much more rapid increase for me. But if anyone wants to give me a follow on YouTube and watch those reels and comment, I would so appreciate you for doing that. And I don't remember if I mentioned this, but we have some big news coming with an affiliate program that I just got approved for. So we're going to have some giveaways coming up in the next week or so. So I'm going to be able to provide some packing materials for you guys. We got like 9 things that we can give away. So stay tuned, especially if you just followed me or you don't really watch my reels. Most of those giveaways are going to be on those reels. So what is my YouTube? It's Retro Rewinder. And if you're watching on TikTok, you can find all of my links. I have a link tree. So just go to my profile and you'll be able to find my link tree. It has all of my social media, but I'm Retro Rewinder across all platforms. So if you want to get on YouTube and give that a watch, it's pretty much the same stuff that I put on TikTok, except when I do long form, that stuff doesn't normally come to TikTok. So I do some of the long form stuff only ends up on YouTube. But all my reels I cross post. So if you just want to watch my reels on TikTok, that's no problem at all. But if you did want to jump over to YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it, because like I said, I'm trying to get those watch hours up over there and get a little more traction on YouTube. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I had a blast doing this. Like I said, we're probably going to do this every other week or so, do more of a topic related podcast style instead of me just shipping. Normally I get on here and I just do my shipping. And then when I'm done shipping, I turn it off, and then that's the end of it. So we're going to try to do some more podcast stuff. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I very much appreciate you. I got to leave because I'm going to that private pick. So hopefully we'll get a reel out of this and you can see what we get from that. Thank you guys so much. And I will talk to you guys next time. Peace out, everyone.